Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. We now will have all our panelists back. I think Dr. Wang might not be there for quickly. So anyway, I would like to turn over for the discussion part, the floor to Dr. Divina Amalin, of who's an expert in entomological research, particularly in integrated pest management, or IPM, with emphasis on the use of biological control agents. Dr. Amalin is currently a full professor at De La Salle University, and she has been working with the South Florida for a PhD on biological control agent spiders, Florida and Offshore Biological Control Initiative. So she has been working on IPM program for cacao pests in the Philippines and assumes the chairmanship of the ASEAN Cocoa Club Technical Working Group on Good Agriculture Practices. She is also involved with the control of coconut scale cocolisap using biological control agents. So I will now move the floor to Dr. Amalin for the question and answer portion.
Thank you, Menchi. Dad, it is a very excellent webinar. I've learned a lot. Hindi ako nabagot makinig sa lahat. So I thank everyone, no, first for this wonderful conference for the 40th PAASE. So one thing that I've collected with all the talk is that I think there is a need for a more linkage between or science-based and industry-driven research approach for for a better Philippine agriculture and to serve the Filipino people. And also hearing all of these, aside from the industry two representative, is that parang we need to go back to basic, learn the ecosystem, learn the crop, learn the environment where that is, and then use this smart farming tool to level up our farming system. Kasi the fact that I've been in the US and I've seen that farming is a big thing, a very high work for Americans. Pero dito sa atin, it's a very lowly job or work. But it should not be. We just have to change the landscape of farming in the Philippines to level up the status of our Filipino farmers, kahit pa yan ay crops or aquatic in that sense. Anyway, but there is a big hope because there are a lot of expertise in the Philippines. Hindi tayo kulang sa expertise, no? It's just a true linkage of science with the industry. Ano ba talaga yung need ng industry at the Filipino people para ma-serve ang mga tao. Anyway, so I would like to open the floor for the more. I know there will be a lot of questions, no, or comments from the audience. I would like to thank all the audience, no, the one that participated here, and I would like to ask now for the list of the questions. Okay, thank you also for Carissa and Angelique for this wonderful collating of all the questions, no, and comments to our dear speakers. So the first question is for Dr. Mark Redillas. So anyway, you can hear, since you will be looking into sensing the amount of transcripts needed for detection, does the technology require you to pre-process the sample, such as RNA extraction of the sample, before it detect the amount of nitrogen in the plant? This question is coming from Dr. Tadeus Carvajal, also a DLSU part-time faculty before, and now with the Ehime University in Japan. Mark?
Yes. Good morning, Sir Tads. Thank you very much for that question. And actually, this question is very important sa process ng yung LAMP assay. No? Our project right now is based on amplification of nucleic acid. It targets basically the cDNA later on. But since we are looking at the sensing of these transcripts, kailangan po talaga mag-pre-process muna ng samples for RNA extraction. It is actually part of our study and goal later on how to somehow bypass the RNA extraction step kasi yun yung magiging limitation in application in the field. Luckily, meron na ding how do you call this, publication in terms of using a cellulose-based paper in attracting nucleic acids right after getting it from the sample. So either DNA or RNA. So one of these studies reported actually just using a Wattman paper, so it's cellulose-based, and it actually attracts the nucleic acids, either DNA or RNA. And from that, it can be readily available for assay. So since it's still the initial step ng research namin, lab muna, everything should be calibrated and calculated, especially the RNA extraction step and the amount of total RNA that we are going to use before deploying it to field. For now, controlled everything, but later on, this is really part of the study on how we can bypass the RNA extraction step, which is very critical kasi ano yan very sensitive, and at the same time, critical yung RNA na nako-collect. So from that alone, it can dictate the result of your work. So it's a very important question. Thank you very much, Sir Tads, for that. And later on, we'll go from LAMP to RT-LAMP, which is reverse transcriptase LAMP, para diretso na from RNA to DNA, and then LAMP assay right away. Yun po. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Okay, this one is a question for Dr. Billy Almarines, and the question is also from Dr. Carvajal. Is your release at Zamboanga, how many times throughout the year? From 2017 to 2018, you released Comperiela. The reason is being that one of the goals of biocontrol is releasing an agent that is self-sustaining. Maybe you could explain more the reduced intervention point and how this kind of strategy is timely, okay, in dealing or adapting with the new normal. Okay, Billy?
Thank you very much po, Dr. Amalin, and thank you very much, Dr. Tads, for your question, because actually, I think I was not able to elaborate much on this due to time constraints in preparing the presentation. Now, how many times throughout the year between 2017 and 2018 did we release Comperiela? If I remember correctly, just about 2 or 3. As far as our team were concerned, when we went to, actually we started releasing in late 2016, okay? But we only had a few relatively few individuals that we brought from our Laguna rearing facilities, because we did not really intend to release initially. We just brought the Comperiela as part of a training that Dr. Amalin was going to hold in Zamboanga City. But then it so happened that when we were already there, we were able to confirm that Aspidiotus rigidus was already in Zamboanga City. So we went back in, if I remember correctly, January 2017. We released Comperiela, mass-reared from Laguna. And also, I think in February, we also went back with Comperiela from Laguna. And then when we started monitoring in April, the following the following 2 months after, that was when we already observed and recorded establishment and spread of Comperiela calawanica. Okay, and the subsequent releases made by the Philippine Coconut Authority, we don't have the exact numbers for that, but based on what I've heard from the workers in Philippine Coconut Authority Zamboanga Research Center that we've been closely working with in the field, I think only as much as 3 times also that they released Comperiela in the field. And that time, they were already releasing Comperiela that they were already rearing in their facilities. So all in all, I think in Zamboanga City, that would amount up to just 6 times. And in that span, the coconut palms were able to recover completely from the CSI infestation. So uh, uh, I thank you very much, Stats, for pointing out that biological control uh, leads to a self-sustaining pest management strategy. Okay, so the reduced intervention there would be. I failed to. Very sorry for that. I failed to mention it in my presentation. It's like this. I'll put it very simply. We release the field. So the intervention there would be needed for human intervention would be needed, of course, for releasing the reared biological control agents in the field. Okay. And then after releasing, basically just let the biological control agents do the work in managing the population. And the few instances that would also require human intervention would be monitoring. But unlike in chemical control, whenever you know that the pest is there, you have to go out and apply the pesticide. But in biological control, because it is based on the biology and the ecology of the species involved, we just let nature do its thing. Okay, so I guess that would be that's what I meant by reduced intervention.
Thank you, Sir Billy, for a quick acknowledgement lang. I would like to thank the president of PAASE. I saw her. She was in the attendees list. Dr. Gisela Concepcion for having been sitting through our meeting right now. And she has a question just for Ma'am Lelaine and as well as for Dr. Doronilia, Agustin Doronilia right now. So these are for Ma'am Lelaine, apparently. And Dr. Giselle, did you want to ask the question yourself?
Shall I answer?
Okay, I'll just let her. Okay, so yes, thank you so much, Dr. Giselle, for being in this meeting, as well as Dr. Doronilia. Just 2 questions for Ma'am Elaine before we continue with the next question. Lelaine, can you tell us more about your arrangement with 2,000 coconut farmers? And maybe the other one was talk about that 2,000 farmers and the place, as well as is there a reduction in the yield? And are these trees still productive even if you get the coconut sap?
All right. There's a lot of questions there, but there's also one that's being posted now. It says, "Why are you not selling your products locally?" Shall I answer
Right.
this first?
Yeah.
All right. So I exported my products in 2009. I believe I was the first person to export to the US in container loads coconut sugar and coconut seasoning in 2009. However, I export in drums because we don't have a bottling company. If you sell locally, you have to sell in bottles in retail packaging, and so I did not um, start selling locally. I immediately exported because it was so easier. It's easier for us to package in drums. Um, and then, but this year I'm planning to sell locally because a lot of people, my buyer in America, they are on a private label. They have their own brand. And then there's a company in the Philippines called Healthy Options. They buy from my buyer, and then my buyer ships to the Philippines. So it's like pabalik-balik. It's 4 times more expensive in Healthy Options.
Yeah, that's
true.
That's very sad.
I'm very excited to sell locally. That's why I recently developed before the pandemic Filipino sauces. We have the counterpart, healthier alternative to coconut fish. Like we have coconut fish sauce, we have coconut lechon sauce, we have coconut adobo sauce. So
Yeah.
people who, you just mix the sauce and just add the meat. But that's for local. These are local favorites. So soon I will be selling. And then the next question. I was the founding president of the Organic Farmers and Processors Association of the Philippines. This is a nationwide organization of coconut producers. We also have one in Bulacan. They are Moringa. They're the only Moringa producer. All of us, again, are 100% organic certified, USDA and Europe, and also we are 100% kosher certified. Directly and indirectly, we are helping more than 2,000 farmers and families because when we export, normally buyers don't buy like less than a container load. And so one company or one co-op or one facility cannot supply, you know. That's why I initially helped even finance the organic certification of the several top producers nationwide. You know, we do different kinds of sap-based products, from sugar to syrup to teriyaki sauce, vinegar, and then other sauces. We have to cooperate because, for example, when we produce coconut condensed milk, one facility can do the milk, the other one can do the coconut syrup. So our buyers abroad, they require 100% organic certification. So one community grower group needs to cooperate with the other community grower group. Sometimes we have to consolidate. So there are many, many farmers and families that are benefiting from our export of all these sub products. And at this point in time, my company is the only one, even up to this day, in Whole Foods in the US that was able to enter the organic store for the coconut sugar and syrup. The others are from Indonesia. So there was a very interesting question earlier there that that's another thing, another question about like why the Indonesian product, the sugar has a higher glycemic. There's an answer to that, but it's not being posted yet. I don't know if I already answered your questions so far.
The last one, Ma'am Lelaine, is don't the coconut tree reduce its coconut yield? It should be productive or providing coconut sap.
Okay. We are also subjected to environmental situations. For example, if there's an earthquake, like in Mindanao, like last year, the sap flow kind of like is being reduced. So we have to do certain things to and also if there's El Nino, you know, we are affected. But you know, there's also the God factor there because of nature. So a lot of my growers, we resort to praying. Some of our growers are even like singing to their trees because it's the source of all the livelihood. And I just want to let you know that during the quarantine, the export orders of our US buyer in particular increased. And but during the quarantine, you know, we cannot, there's no transportation, but we have to deliver because the shelves will be empty and there will be a penalty for our buyers. So some of our grower groups, you know, what they did during quarantine, they house the workers. They give them free meals, 3 meals a day, which isn't even part of the original arrangement. Just so they don't go in and out because of the quarantine, you know, they need all these travel permits and there's no transportation to go back to the farm and the facility. So we were able to fulfill our export orders because we adjusted. Because the demand apparently is amazing, even if there's a pandemic and quarantine, it's increasing in Australia and the US. So, but we have other concerns like port congestion. Sometimes in the port, our container is ready, it's been delivered, but they closed the port because one part of the customs had a COVID patient. So these things, I mean, we're doing our best to do our part in terms of production and delivery, but there are other parts in the supply chain that's kind of like affecting us. Sometimes the trucker is not available. And during the quarantine, we have some raw materials, for example, like pallets and packing tape. It's not available because the store's closed. So we have to consider, I mean, we're ready to deliver, we're doing our part, but if there's like a lockdown and then the other suppliers of packing, like suppliers of drums are not available, we are also affected. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am. So I'll go back. Thank you for that.
Okay, thanks, Elaine. That the last question was from Dr. Asuncion Raimundo, and I have the same question actually with Dr. Asuncion Raimundo. Okay, the next question. This is from FB Live from Krisa, and the question is for Miss Elaine again, and from Albic Josol and Isabel Inside. What is the glycemic index of cocoa sugar? Parang nasabi na ni.
All right.
Go ahead, Lily.
Okay, thank you so much for this very important question. In fact, I'm including this as one of the FAQ in the book that I'm now working on. Okay, glycemic index of 54 is still low because 55 and below is considered low glycemic. But there's a difference in processing through the time that you harvest the sap, where the conditions of processing, where the trees planted near the mountain or near the ocean, and the time it was harvested. Normally within 4 hours, you have to, upon harvest, you have to already cook and, cook it into coconut sugar, the fresh sap. You have to measure the pH. There are many, many, many factors involved. Now, the important question, 54 from Sydney, glycemic index 54, that's still low glycemic depending on where the source of their sugar is. That's why you cannot buy sugar just from anybody because sometimes they cheat on probably how they process the sugar. Now, for Indonesia, it's a different matter because in Indonesia, my buyer, the reason they ended up buying from me because they initially purchased from a company in Indonesia called Big Tree Farms, and the glycemic index was 70 plus. So it's like a cane sugar equivalent of GI. And then the buyer did an in vitro test tube in the US because it's like, I think $600 to do an in vitro or $300 compared to a human in vivo live subjects. So the buyer asked me why. So I had to explain to them because there's a purity test. You can easily do a purity test because not all coconut sugars are made the same. The Indonesian sugar, if you in a glass of water, you pour like a tablespoon of cocoa sugar and then you mix it. And then another glass, Philippine sugar, you mix it, 1 tablespoon. You will see the Indonesian sugar, it's cloudy. It's cloudy. And then at the end, at the bottom of the glass, there are sediments and they're like black things floating. So again, it depends on the processing because in Indonesia, they have to harvest not 4 hours. I mean, they cook upon harvest in the Philippines in 4 hours, you process it into sugar. But apparently in Indonesia, because it's a Muslim country, they have to wait like 12 hours. So something's going on there now with the sap. And then they add a preservative. So be very careful with the kind of coconut sugar that you buy because they can cheat, they can add other stuff there. That's why our organization, we're very, very strict. We have standards and we are organic certified every year. The certifier checks our facility and, we do all these tests. Because sometimes it can be cocoa sugar, but how do you know? What if they mix palm sugar or other high glycemic, whatever kind of sugar there, even brown sugar from cane? So always buy from reliable suppliers, preferably exporters, because they are high standard in quality. So it's true. It can be cocoa sugar, but they might be adding something. In Indonesia, they add again a preservative. For us, no preservative, no coloring, no any artificial, no nothing. I hope I answered the question.
Next question. Thanks, Lelaine.
Thank you.
It is from Dr. Ziva Alam. And again, this is for Ms. Lelaine. They have studies to show that the constituents of coconut sap retains the beneficial properties in the form that you sell your product.
Do you have a study? Okay. Now, our grower group, we are very clannish. We are very, very strict because we are 100% exporters. So we maintain a certain standard. We have equipment, we measure things. We measure pH before we cook. There are parameters that we follow. So at least I can only vouch for the members of our association because we export. We're going to get in trouble with our buyers. They do a lot of testing in America all the time. And we have to submit for every container load. We have to submit a certificate of analysis for each and every container load of shipment. So, but I cannot control probably other maybe backyard operators, but mostly if they do it minimally processed, then you're supposed to retain the beneficial properties. But of course, again, it depends on the honesty and integrity of the people supplying you. Because, just like in other countries or maybe even in the Philippines, they can mix, because coconut sugar can be a bit more expensive than the cane sugar. So how do we know? We will never know. Because if they cheat and add whatever, like maybe brown cane sugar, muscovado sugar, just to lower their price. So I suggest that you get only from reliable sources to be able to make sure that you get the beneficial properties. that's supposed to be in the product. Thank you for the question. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me, but I
Yes,
lost.
we can hear you. Yes. Thank you very much, Ma'am Elaine.
Yes, there's another question that popped up here. Shall I answer this or?
Let's answer
Oh
this
no,
one first from
there's
Sir
another.
Rene Pamintuan.
Eh,
And
Ito a question from Tintin Brugado. And the question is, can the licenses
Oh,
be
okay.
acquired by cooperative?
Uh,
Sir Rene?
yes, it can be acquired by the cooperatives. Depends on what kind of licenses you are requesting. Like what Ms. Lelaine has been explaining, the standards for export are very, very high, and we need to really follow all these standards. Certificate of analysis are being submitted regularly for export containers or export shipments. The problem really is that the MSMEs all over the country, as well as the poor farmers, are lack the financial wherewithal to be able to do that. No? Even the cooperatives, they find this a daunting issue. Mr. Lane can confirm that. It requires a lot of specialization, funding. For example, organic accreditation alone costs a lot of money, and the poor farmers and the MSMEs cannot do it. That's why I kept on telling the DA, sabi ko, why don't you put it up yourself and accredit the facility, so that the farmers, they will just deliver their products or their produce to the and be able to use the licenses of the toll facility. If the cooperative is the one to do that, fine. But still, the financial burden is huge. That is why I've always been saying, DA, why don't you do it? The problem here really is that the DA is not geared towards doing that. They are focused more on the field operations. And I keep on telling them as well that your science of agriculture the definition should change. You should include post-harvest facility, toll packing processing facility. It cannot just be focused on the farm and the field operations, which has been what they've been doing for the last 50 years. And therefore, I call that production-led. It's not market-driven. Market-driven should be one that answers the requirements of the market. For example, all of those standards. So how can it be market-driven if you are not able to fulfill those standards? Eventually, our poor farmers are able to market only in the local bagsakan areas. They are not going to get the higher values for their production. And that is the reason why national poverty scale in the entire country, 80% of the whole national poverty is in the rural areas. Because we're going to empower and enable the rural farmers to be able to do exports. It is in exports, it is in value adding that money is made, not in the mere production terms. But sadly, like I said, most of the graduates of our agriculture schools are not entrepreneurially driven. They are taught to be employees. They are taught to be farmers. They are taught to look at the field. That is all that they are taught at. So sayang, I lift my hat to Mrs. doing this on a private basis. But how many people can do what Lalaine and others are capable of doing right now? Kukunti lang, no? Hindi nga market driven eh. Kung market driven sana yung agriculture natin, like Thailand and Vietnam, you know, Vietnam is earning $4 billion from their fruit exports alone. In the Philippines, our fruit trees are backyard mode. We have not done any plantation from 1946 Independence Day until now. I went to DA and asked them that question. Do you even have a tropical fruit tree plantation strategy? And they told me, wala. Kung wala kang ganong strategy, how can you create fruit export business? You cannot. And also, that's just for the fresh fruit business. But what about the manufactured fruit products. O di wala talaga yan. That's why, guys, we are only focused on rice, rice, rice. If you notice that. Until now, it's rice, and we cannot even sustain ourselves on rice. We are still importing. So marami talagang problema ang agriculture.
Yes, I can relate and attest to that, Mr. Pamintuan. And hopefully, there will be a change.
Yes, kailangan natin ng change. Kaya, you know, like I said, simple lang naman ang change that must emanate. Ang
Yes.
gusto lang natin mangyari, maging market-driven.
Yes.
So if it is everything will be answered, all the standards will be provided for, all the factories will be given, all the manufacturing and processes will be provided for, then our farmers will work. Hindi.
Yeah.
Like I said, the national poverty is in the rural fields. Bakit? Kasi hindi sila enabled, hindi spurred.
That's the correct term. Hindi pa talaga sila enable. So anyway, thank you very much for all the questions, no? Answered by Dr. Concepcion raised hand. Nenchi.
Okay, let's give her a chance to talk.
Yeah, Nenchi, thank you. I'd like to ask the panelists, the speakers and participants, whether DTI might be the right agency to move this forward, Mr. Pamintuan. And well, with that, also BOI, because we know that Secretary Ramon Lopez is on this campaign to get more MSMEs supported. Now, there's the private group. It's this Go Negosyo group that is supposed to be supporting the MSMEs and the co-ops. Are we able to do that more effectively now than 3 years ago, Mr. Pamintuan? And in the case of the co-ops, we are aware that during the Pinoy administration, the co-ops received a lot of subsidies in terms of agricultural equipment. But I understand, I have information from the ground that many of these equipment were never used because there was no technological know-how. So I think that it's important that if we propose something new to the government, you're right, it might have to involve a direct scientist, engineer, farmer. Could you please comment on this, Mr. Pamintuan, Lalaine, and others? I'm sorry for keeping us longer.
Sir Rene.
Yes, may I reply? To be able to reply to that properly, we have to understand that there are certain levels in the commerce, agricultural commerce. With fresh juice, like for example, fresh bananas, fresh pineapples, and other fresh fruits, you need to process it in a post-harvest facility. And that post-harvest facility is under the BPI, Bureau of Plant Industries. The license to operate a packing plant for banana, apples, and other fresh fruits resides in the Bureau of Plant Industry. Ang problema, BPI practices mere regulatory functions. Hindi sila empowering, hindi sila enabling. Sana sila yung magtayo ng planta para mawa. Okay. And this post-harvest facility, the DTI. DTI is handling manufactured and processed goods. Pag hindi pa siya manufactured, pa siya processed, which means kailangan ng Philippine FDA license, hindi yan under the gamut of DTI. It's not, there is that, ang nangyayari, nahuhulog yung farmer doon sa vacuum na yon. May butas at nahuhulog siya doon, hindi niya malaman kung kanino siya tatakbo. A packing plant and a processing post-harvest facility, it should be under the DA. Now, question, ilan na ba ang pinagawang post-harvest facility ng DA? Okay. Walang magaling na strategy for this one. Hindi siya nationwide ang strategy niya. Pumipili lang sila ng konting-konting lugar na hindi naman cover lahat ng requirements ng mga farmers. O bigyan kita ng example, for example, let's say tomatoes. If it is market-driven in an area, magtatayo ka ng planta, magtatayo ka ng planta, NDOST, that will produce the proper tomato paste that you need, right? And then you go down pabaligtad until such time that you will go to the fields and the production and the planting of tomatoes will be handled in such a manner that it will be efficient, economical, volume talaga ang ipoproduce niya, and the quality you need will be produced. But we are not approaching it in that basis. Alam nyo ba, DOST, maybe even DTI, will provide the facility. Pero yung facility na yun, yung machineries na yun, I've seen this happening in the field, hindi naman siya geared towards the standards of the tomato paste that is being requested. Hindi market-driven. They are just there spending. Merong disconnect doon sa ginagawa. DOST provided a certain agricultural college in Mindanao a whole facility for processing kuno and lab, no? And it was made from China. Deliver nila. Minsan lang ginamit, nag-crumble down yung machinery. Agricultural college told me, but first, we never even requested it. It was just delivered to us. Secondly, nung masira na yung equipment, first time trial pa lang, we told DOST to have it repaired. Hanggang ngayon, many years after, hindi na binalikan ng DOST. So obviously, that kind of work is just to spend the budget. It is not meant to create an economic activity that will rebound to the farmers and even to that agricultural college. So kung ganyan ang ginagawa natin, we're wasting money, we're wasting time, we're wasting science because it does not fulfill anything. Ginastusan lang, ginamit lang yung budget, but it did not meet any economic enterprise.
Okay.
I'm so happy to listen to Ma'am Lalaine, because she, on a private basis, they are organizing the farmers, they're organizing themselves, and they're doing what has to be done. But obviously, this is an uphill climb. Instead of the government should have been helping out by providing these facilities, toll facilities even, and then the standards are given. You know what? You talk to the government, lalo na sa DA or even some other departments, they don't even know what is export standards. Kami pa nagtuturo sa kanila. Ako kasi nasa logistics ako, hindi ko masiship yung kargamento unless I fulfill all the documentation and standards. So I have to do it. In behalf of the MSME, I have to explain to them, you know what, pati nga export documentation ako na gumagawa eh. Ako na nga ang nagkikreate nga ako ng toll company para lang gawin ito, and I'm sure Ms. Lalaine is aware of what I do, no? Nagkikreate ako ng toll company para pumasa at makapag-export. If you don't do that, so the bottom line is we are not market driven. Everything that we do is not to fulfill the market requirements. So kung hindi yan and it goes back to what I said, if the agricultural colleges do not teach entrepreneurial development and enterprise development and marketing, where are we going? We're just going round and round and round, and all the money being spent, they are not spent efficiently and economically.
Thank you, Sir Rene, for all your inputs, and I could really feel your passion, and so do all of us here. Anyway, it's already lunchtime, and I'm pretty sure we'll have to close. What I'm going to do now is going to ask each of the panelists to give their final message to the audience. If you would give a final closing remark, starting from the scientists, then moving on to Ma'am Lalaine and Sir Rene for this close of this event. So let's go to Dr. Chona first. Is she here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this wonderful discussion this morning. I hope that we were able to communicate the importance of research, science, and technology in the making of our food. With the limitations of travel and safety,
Now is the time for innovations to allow us to collect data and positively impact our fishing and farming communities. Let us consider empowering citizens on the ground. Sorry, let us consider empowering citizens on the ground to use citizen science to cast a wide net of input for our research. Coming from the Practical Genomics Lab, the Biology Department, and Scientia, my science communication channel, I would like to welcome anyone who is as baliw na baliw sa research as us to collaborate, learn, and be featured in our site. You can contact me at chona.abeledo@dlsu.edu.ph. If you want to learn about our crab-based technology, please visit our site at crabtech.ph. And finally, if you want to have regular science goodness in your online life, we'll be starting our season 2 soon, and visit Science's website and YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir Mark, may I call on you, please?
Yes, hello po. Once again, congratulations then for the Philippines, for the PAASE for their anniversary. Wait lang. My takeaway, due to the current pandemic that we're experiencing right now, we now know more than ever the role of agriculture in our society. Hindi siya pwedeng, it's the one that we cannot really neglect. No? Ito yung essential talaga sa role ng society. And gaya nga po ng sinabi ni Dr. Amalin, we have to go back to basic and understanding our crops, our plants. And by doing that, we can improve on how we are going to target or go with our agriculture and improving it at the same time, getting the maximum yield that we expect from what we have in the field. So yun po, hopefully, together with Sir Rene's passion towards improving sa agriculture and marketing side, sana po will improve more, hindi lang po for the better, but for the best towards the Philippines na rin po.
May I call on Sir Billy, sir?
Okay, thank you very much po, Mamenchi, and thank you very much to all those who attended and participated in our program, and also like Dr. Mark, I would like to congratulate PAASE for the anniversary. Now, as a Christian Scientist, I would like to share this. This is my firm belief, that the solutions to all of our problems, and yes, even for COVID-19, they are actually already out there. That's how good our divine creator is. We just have to work together to search for them, discover them, understand them, apply them, improve on them if necessary, and share for everyone to use or at least appreciate. And that, I believe, is the job, the goal of our science. Thank you very much po.
Yes, let's call on, is Ma'am Weng still here? If she isn't, Dr. Amalian. Ma'am Divine?
Di ba na-miss si Marla?
Ay, si Marla pala. Sorry. Sorry, Marla. Let's go call Marla first. Sorry, Marla. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
See, that's how much we forget water all the time.
I would not say a lot, yan. Pero first of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me. So, ako yung parang medyo malayo kasi I'm in the engineering world. Pero it's really nice to hear presentations from scientists and experts and from the industries as well. And I really enjoy this event. So in my case, I think what we need, right, what Dr. Chona also mentioned is we have to produce more. So in the research field, on the research side, we have to produce more experts, we have to produce more researchers, and in the future we can produce better research and better output to help our country. So in the field of water, the knowledge is currently lacking right now. So that's actually my goal. So that's also the reason why I came back from Korea, because I wanted to also share my expertise and my knowledge. So I hope that in the future we will have more experts in the water field, especially that water is also an important aspect in agriculture, and all of those na um, mga everything na related sa agriculture, may water yan. So later on, pwedeng po problemahin yan later on, pero at least we have to be prepared as early as now. So that's all. Thank you very much, and congratulations to this successful event. Thank you.
So go you, Dr. Amalian.
All right. Thank you very much. I really congratulate PAASE for the anniversary. Congratulations, Dr. Concepcion, for Gisela Concepcion for the 40th anniversary of PAASE. I would like to thank and congratulate all the speakers. All valuable information that I really cherish while listening to everybody. So thank you and congratulations. And most of all, thank you, Menchi, for putting this webinar excellently, despite all the just before the seminar, the webinar. You made it through. So congratulations, very good job, well done. And special thanks to Angelique and Krisa for helping us out with the question. So thank you, everyone, and stay safe all the time.
Yes, I'd like us to hear from our industry partners, invitees. Ma'am Lelaine, will you still be around?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to PAASE, especially to Dr. Gisela Concepcion, and also to Doc Menchi. I am so pleased to meet all the scientists and all the speakers today. I thank you for all the listeners. My message is, let us choose to eat organic, whole foods that are minimally processed. Always remember that food cures and plant heals, and choose low glycemic coconuts, half sugar, and syrup as a healthier alternative to refined white sugar. Our priority at this time is to be healthy and to stay healthy. God bless you all. Thank you.
And then let me now call on Sir Rene.
Yes, all the sciences that we have, I hope you would see that we need to focus all this to help the poorest of the poor, and these are the farmers. The Filipino farmers had been poor from time immemorial, and of course that is a fact. And we would like to ask that scientists like you are would do your best to help these poor farmers. Three words I mentioned earlier: market-driven, empowerment. These are what is lacking for our farmers. No one is doing that for them right now. The government has all the resources, but they are going round and round and round and round because the bureaucrats, supposedly academically qualified, have no experience. They are not into development. They are not into market-driven activities. Kaya ang nangyayari, paikot-ikot, spending the money in a very sad way, and it does not really improve the situation of our farmers. So I take this opportunity to thank all the scientists here, but I also ask this double your efforts, because poverty out there is really killing our poor farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who have stayed with us this long. If you need a certificate for this, can you please send me an email from ma.carmen.lagman@dlsu.edu.ph. And to all our panelists, thank you so much. Have a good day.